First night.
Okay. This is my first time doing a storytelling gig, so bear with me. I felt like it would be a crime for me not to speak because I actually just returned from 8.5 months of something like a paid vacation. I was teaching English in Italy for the year. And so I experienced that wonderful terremoto that we heard about at the beginning of the night. And my story actually isn't going to be about that, although it was very interesting experiencing it inside of a high school building with students running out at 9 a.m. But I'm going to talk about something else, another type of natural disaster that I experienced while traveling in Europe. I tend to sort of be a magnet for these kind of disasters. And so, 2 years ago, I was studying abroad in Perugia, Italy, different town, and I decided I was going to meet up with some friends in Prague. And we booked our flights, we flew Ryanair, we had everything booked at the hostel, ready to go. This is April 2010. And so I take my flight, and my friends are coming in from London. We're meeting there at the airport in Prague. And I arrive on my own. I'm expecting we're going to meet, see each other. And I get a phone call. And my friend says to me, "Did you hear about the volcano?" And I'm like, "What? Volcano? Like, do we have volcanoes in this area? Like, maybe Italy? Like, I'm not really sure what's going on." No, there was this volcano in Iceland, and it's erupting right now. And yeah, we can't come to Prague. We're trapped in London. And so I'm like, all right, okay, can figure this out. So they said, we think that maybe we can arrive in, I don't know, maybe tomorrow. Maybe it'll be delayed. So I go off to the hostel on my own, and I check in. I'm like, okay, I'll explore a little bit. Not a big deal. I don't mind exploring the city by myself. And the next morning, of course, they find out that their flight is canceled. So I have 4 days on my own in Prague, which actually isn't the worst thing in the world because Prague is a really beautiful city. And I mean, being trapped there alone, there are worse things that can happen for sure. So I had a pretty good time, but it comes to be the end of this vacation, and I find out that this volcanic ash is still in the air. And all of the flights out of Prague and all around the European airspace are being delayed or canceled. And so my flight gets canceled. And I'm like, this is a situation. I need to find a way to get back to Italy because that's where I'm studying abroad. And so I'm trying to figure out, can I rebook the flight? Can I take a train? What are my options here? Turns out there are buses that go around Europe, very extended hour bus rides all around the European continent. And so I find that there's this random bus company that doesn't really seem very legitimate, but they offer like $50 for a bus ride from Prague to Florence. And so I'm like, I am booking this trip. I'm getting out of Prague somehow. I don't speak the language. This is starting to feel like something out of the Twilight Zone. I got to get out of here. I'll do anything I can. And so I sign myself up for this bus ride. And I arrive at the bus station, and it does exist. There's this crazy, brightly colored student agency bus. And turns out no one speaks English. It's a bunch of foreigners on the bus. But I have to say it was one of the coolest experiences ever because I met this group of Italians. I met this like 70-year-old Maltese woman, and we just kept each other company the entire time. And 20 hours went by like nothing. And I don't know, it really wasn't that bad in the end. And I arrived in Florence, and turns out we arrived a little bit early. So I think we were scheduled to arrive at like 7 a.m., and I arrived at 4 a.m. So they end up dropping me off outside of the train station in the middle of the night. Not many other people were getting off at that stop. And so I end up making friends with this like Greek guy and this Russian girl, and we end up just keeping each other company talking for like 3 hours until the train leaves. So that's the end of that story, but this is just to say that I tend to be a magnet for these crazy natural disasters, so I wasn't all that surprised when this earthquake situation happened this year in Italy. But also you end up meeting some pretty cool people in strange situations like that, so you never know.